7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second season and second episode of Inside Pacer Nation. I'm Marcus Johnson, joined once again by Jordan Phillips. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, guys.
All right, we're going to go ahead and kick things off really quickly. We have a special guest in the house today. Member of the USC Aiken volleyball team, Rebecca Martinez, has graciously joined us for today's broadcast.
Yeah, it's going to be a little interview segment. We're going to try and do these more often, give a little bit more interactivity with the athletes. So, maybe draw a little bit more attention to them specifically, not just us talking about them. We want to get everybody involved, get the community involed.
Nobody really wants to pay attention to us.
Nobody listens to us, so it doesn't even matter.
All right, so before we go to Rebecca, we are going to just do a quick preview, a quick overview of volleyball, who just the other day got their 9th straight win.
They did.
Yeah, and that's a heck of a win streak, especially going into Florida to play Flagler. That's going to probably be their toughest match of the season.
Yeah, Flagler, they did lose at Flagler last year, so they'll be looking to avenge that road loss and just continue their winning ways. I mean, like you said, 9 straight wins. They picked up their 9th straight over UNC Pembroke the other day in their first conference matchup of the season. And so they'll want to get off on the right foot and just go down there and prove just how good they are against Flagler.
And in that matchup against UNC Pembroke, our special guest actually set the school record for digs. So we're going to go ahead and turn things over to her.
Yeah, and so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Rebecca Martinez, and I'll join you guys again a little bit later.
Yeah, sadly, headsets are an expensive commodity that we just can only afford 2 of them. So just a moment while Rebecca sets up. And thank you for joining us, Ms. Martinez.
Thank you for having me.
So in the match against UNC Pembroke earlier, you set a school record for digs in a 3-set match. How are you feeling about that?
Well, pretty good. I mean, it's a school record. It's not just like any Joe Schmo record, so that's pretty big, which is what I wanted to do when I came in for this season, to break a school record, break some type of record. By the time I leave, I want to break PBC record. So
I mean, it's a tough goal to beat all those records, but you've already started off on the right foot, breaking this record early on in the year. And not only that, but you also got a career best in digs for a set, which you set, I believe it was last year, in a 5-set match. And
yeah, I'm excited about it. It's pretty cool.
Well, definitely. And also, little note: you earned the Specialist of the Week honors. So you're really just off. You're on fire right now.
Yeah,
honestly.
thank you. Yeah, it's nice to win different things and get recognized, because not all liberos get recognized. It's usually your hitters are your main priority. So it's nice.
Well, liberos have been a really good strength that this Pacer squad has had. Obviously, Danielle Mercer last year, who set records in her own right, which you just stole one away from her. But the libero has been such a crucial role for this USC Aiken squad. I don't know how many times I've seen it in a match where you or just anybody has made an incredible dig on a play you basically had no business getting.
Yeah.
So just know that you're appreciated amongst the USC Aiken community. And also, a stat that I was just told, you have a 6.31 digs per set, and that leads the Peach Belt Conference right now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just doing what I practice.
You're just doing your job.
Just bringing it into games.
Hey, you're just doing your job. You're getting things done. You're getting the wins. That's what really matters. And the rest of your team is just doing a phenomenal job. And now, I've noticed this as the season has progressed, but you seem to be having a lot of fun out there. Even on plays where you don't get the point, where somebody messes up something, they get up, they laugh. What is the chemistry like for this team this year?
I definitely think it's a lot better, a lot closer. We do more things together, either inside of volleyball, outside of volleyball. Our group chats, we're always talking in the group chats. And I just feel like just having that outside chemistry, we have it huge, so it brings it in on the court, in practice. And I don't know, I feel like we don't have negativity really this year, so we're all just kind of, you shanked a pass, whatever, just keep going. It's not that big of a deal.
Just brush it off, forget about it. That's the exact mindset you need. And you also, in going back to the Pembroke game, we don't want to keep you for too long, but we got a bunch of questions. Going back to the game against Pembroke, you had a a point where he managed four to five digs in a single set. How do you single point? How do you keep that mindset to just stay in there with that point?
I know exactly what you're talking about, which play. I mean, you just have to keep working until either you hear the whistle or the ball drops. That's what we're told. Don't stop until you hear the whistle, pretty much. And, I mean, we work on it, like, in workouts and everything, just to keep your stamina up, keep going, like, don't give up. So you just gotta keep going. No matter if you can't breathe or not, you just gotta keep working.
Stay in there till the point. And it's just a wonderful analogy. But Rebecca Martinez, ladies and gentlemen, the PVC Specialist of the Week, and a heck of a volleyball player in her own right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And now we're gonna bring Jordan Phillips back on into the room as we say goodnight to Rebecca. And let's move on into our next sport after we close things up with volleyball. Again, volleyball will be playing Flagler in their next matchup. Again, a very tough match that's coming up. And
it'll definitely be the biggest test the Pacers have had since that opening tournament at Pensacola.
Yeah, that was a heck of a tournament as well. Dropped their first two games and then stormed right back and won the next two to put themselves in the position that they're at right now. But another little note, Avery Macklin was named the Athlete of the Week. And we saw, again, going back to that game against Pembroke, it's the freshest one in our minds right now, I guess you could say. She was putting the ball down with some real authority, as you like to say.
Yeah, she did really well in that match. The one that really stood out to me was against Payne. She looked like just an absolute monster out there against Payne. So she's been doing really well this season, and I expect that to continue on into the later parts of the season, and I think Coach Glenn Cox can only be extremely pleased with how she's performed this year.
On the post games that we've seen him take part in, he's enjoying himself. He's liking what he's seeing from his players, and I mean, who can blame him? 9-game win streak. It's always very good.
Yeah, it's been an absolute ride so far for the volleyball team here at USC Aiken, and we can only hope that this kind of success continues going on into the later parts of the season.
The volleyball will be back in the Convocation Center on the 29th of September. They're going to be on a bit of a road trip, just taking it easy after they play Flagler. But we'll move on out of volleyball into cross country. The season opener was this week at Wingate, and Bethany Fordham ran unattached at Augusta and finished in the top 15.
Yeah, so that's got to be really encouraging for cross country. They've got a lot to look forward to this season. It's going to be a great year for them. As you mentioned, Bethany Fordham running unattached at Augusta and finishing in the top 15. That was an excellent meet for her. And one thing this year, we only have we have two seniors on the team, so it's a young team, and they've got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and having a young team is always beneficial. You can build on success and work out some kinks before it's too late, basically. And another little note is Mimi Inman is a legacy, but could be our number 2 runner, and she's local. It's a very experienced team as well that she's going to be joining, and we'll see how that affects her style.
Yeah, she is local. She came in from Aiken High School, but they're saying, as you mentioned, that she could be a top member of this year's team. It's going to be an exciting season. It'll be interesting to see how this team does and how they bounce back from last season.
Yeah, again, last season was a little crazy, a little hectic, especially, again, going back to Hurricane Matthew. We mentioned it in the last podcast.
Yeah, and this year things should be a little bit better. We're nearing the end of hurricane season, and nothing too insane has happened just yet in our area.
The one that came through just early enough that it didn't affect any of the home meets. But cross country looking to improve this year. They're in a good position to do that, again, with a small experienced team. And with some local talent that could knows the terrain. I mean, you may not think that's a very important factor, but I can tell you from my experience going on geological digs. I know it's kind of nerdy, but it was fun. That the terrain here is different than in many other places, and
yeah, it is indeed.
Advantage.
And so we've got, as you mentioned, the season opener against Wingate on the 23rd. That'll be this Saturday. And shortly after that, the very following Saturday, we should have the Pacer Invitational, weather permitting, here at USC Aiken.
That should be a lot of fun. Make sure everybody comes on out to that. We'll try to get out there, but we may be tied up in other things. A lot of sports going on in the fall, especially good old volleyball. It usually takes up a lot of our time.
Yeah, between volleyball and soccer, we're busy men these days.
And speaking of soccer, let's move ahead to women's soccer, a sport that you have a lot of experience covering this year.
I do, specifically women's soccer. They are coming off of a loss to Columbus State, but the number 2 team in the nation, Columbus State, I might add. But despite the loss, it was a loss 4-0, but 3 of those 4 points came in the span of about 10 minutes. Apart from that, they played probably better than I have ever seen them play as a team, including this year and last year. They played absolutely fantastic. And the thing that I was the most impressed with was the goalkeeping, and we got to see a bit of a fresh face. The freshman Katie Comans was in the goal for USC Aiken in that match, and she is a product out of Boone, Iowa, and I was extremely impressed with her. And as I mentioned, she only allowed 1 goal in the first half of that match, and then the following 3 were all in the span of about 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that's looking over the notes from that match, and from my limited experience watching the game, that tends to be the trend with the women's soccer team. They'll play with the best of them in the first half, but then at the second half, their depth just comes back to bite them. They start to get tired. They get a little sore out there. I know Amanda Giordano's been nursing a hamstring for a while, and it hurts them. But if they can work out those kinks and they can work out they can get healthy, they could be a really, really solid team in the near future within this very season.
I have to agree with you. And like I said, played really well against the number 2 ranked team in the nation, Columbus State.
I mean, you're not expected to win those kinds of games when you're an unranked team going up against the number 2 team in the nation.
Exactly. And honestly, the way they played, they have every reason to be confident going forward. They played extremely well in that match, and they have a big matchup, another Peach Belt conference contest coming up soon against Georgia College that I think they should be very prepared for after such a big match against Columbus State.
And going back to Columbus State, one of the really big things that I'm noticing from my notes is that several freshmen were impact players. That is huge, because if you have freshmen that are making an impact on your team, that's 3 more years of hopefully quality play that you're going to be getting from these players.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just, as you mentioned, there are a lot of freshmen coming in and making impact plays, but it's not just freshmen. You've got veteran presence like Sarah Moore. She's coming in. She's got 2 goals on the season with 1 assist and 5 points. She's been doing really well. Also, Tori Caldwell with 1 goal and 2 assists. I mean, there's a lot of veteran presence, a lot of upperclassmen presence on this team that's doing a great job of keeping this team afloat and doing good with it. And you've got even experience in goalkeeper with Karen Cadwalder. She's been, for as long as I can remember, she's been one of the top goaltenders here for the women's team, and she's going to be doing a great job. She's been doing a great job, rather, in the goal this season, and also with mentoring young players like Katie Commons. I mean, obviously, she's had some impact on her as the way she played against Columbus State.
And, again, when you're playing a team like Columbus State, or you're playing some other like Lynn or Rhine, those are teams that are just, they're coming in at a different level, and you want to go out there and you want to try your best for a win. But if you don't get a win, you really can't fault them for that, because they're basically being dealt a bad hand, and they're being told, all right, go ahead and do whatever you can. But when you see them go out there, when you see them trying their hardest and really trying, honestly, it just comes down to trying their best out there. It gives you hope for the future.
Yeah, it does indeed. They've done a great job this season. They've only gotten better as the season has gone on. And I think that this team, just by watching them in the limited games that I've been over there, perhaps 3 or 4, I think is how many I've been over there for. But just watching them this season, you can already tell they're so much better than they were last year.
It's going to be exciting. I really honestly have high hopes for the soccer team. Predictions, will they make it into the PBC tournament? I could see it. I could see it happening. I wouldn't say it's too far of a stretch. The whole question is, though, will they?
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to the strength of schedule that they play, because I think their style of play, as we've been saying, has been pretty good. but it's always just going to come down to who they play, really.
Exactly. But as you mentioned, I think they do have the talent there necessary to get into the playoffs. It's just a matter of can they execute, can they keep up the pace that they show in the opening half throughout the entire game going forward.
Yep. And now we move on to the folks that share the Pacer pit with the women's soccer team, the men's soccer team. They had a week off before playing a game at Erskine Wednesday, and they returned home this weekend for a match against Georgia Southwestern. Any thoughts?
Yeah, they played a game against a team that wasn't quite as, I don't think necessarily quite as talented as the women played in Columbus State, but they played number 13 nationally ranked Palm Beach Atlantic, and they played well in the first half. There again, it was pretty similar. Played well in the first half. I think the second goal came in the closing 15 to 20 seconds of the first half. It was just a little bit of a close match there early, but it got away from them a little bit at the end. But even there, they played really well against Palm Beach Atlantic. They played well, they played hard, and they kept up. And that's, I think, what was the most important. And another interesting fact about that game, there was a freshman in the game for the Pacers at goal, Dylan Brooks Sharp. But he looked very calm, very confident early on, but he got a little bit shaken there, I think, with the 2 goals in the first half. So they went over to Leonardo Tarja, but he looked fantastic in the second half. He's looked well. He's looked very well in the limited time he's had so far this season. And I think the Pacers have a lot of reason to be excited about their 2 young goalkeepers. Haven't really seen much of Dalton Mixon quite yet in the goal for the Pacers, but between Sharp and Tarja, the goalkeeping situation looks pretty good.
Yeah, moving on from the defensive side of the ball, looking at the offensive side of the ball, and you have Driss Barakat, who is among the leaders in the Peach Belt Conference for goals and points. And I remember there was a game not too long ago where he put up 3 goals without even trying, it seemed.
Yeah, went ahead and took the hat trick home that day. He does have 4 goals and 1 assist, but 9 points so far this season. He's been doing really good there. And he's definitely been a force on the goal-scoring side for the Pacers, by and away the leader in goals for the Pacers.
And he's got very smooth feet, too. He can move the ball pretty well. Sometimes it comes back to bite him where he overdoes it a little bit and he ends up taking away a good angle on the net, or a defender finds a way to slip a foot in there and knock the ball away. But overall, a pretty good quality player that the Pacers can start building around, along with Simon and Biendico. That's a good 3 players to look at for the future of for the rest of the season to try to build on and hopefully get back in the Peach Belt tournament.
Absolutely, and I think they do have a chance to get in there. It will most likely be as a lower seed, but I do think they have the talent necessary to get there.
Hey, it doesn't matter what seed you're in as long as you're in. Because, I mean, I sound like a broken record when I say this, but I've seen low seeds beat top seeds before, and I mean, it's not impossible. It's improbable, but not impossible.
Absolutely, and with a couple of games, specifically the Newberry game, very winnable games. Just things happened and the Pacers weren't able to close out, but it's encouraging when you look at those kind of games. It gives you hope for the future. And even in the Palm Beach Atlantic game, yes, they were beaten 3-0, but they had some really close calls. They had some really good scoring opportunities. They just weren't quite able to capitalize on those.
And that seems to be their kryptonite this year, is just missing opportunities by half a second or half a step. And I mean, there's been a lot of cases where they've been in a great position to make something happen, and then it just slips away. And it hurts, but if you can address those issues, you can all of a sudden you'll start seeing them winning games instead of just barely losing them.
Yeah, and looking forward even into next season, I'm a little curious to see whether Tarja or Brooks Sharp or Mixon. I'm curious to see which of those 3 is going to get the starting job going into next season.
Well, I'll be honest. I've been very impressed with Tarja, despite the lack of wins. But again, you can't put that all on him. I mean, he can only stop the ball. I mean, if he wants to run down to the other side of the pitch, that's one thing. But he can only stop the ball for you, and scoring isn't really his job. It's to stop it.
Absolutely, and wins can be a little bit misleading in positions like goalkeeper in soccer.
Oh yeah, in a lot of sports, wins, they're not as heavily weighted as it is his save percentage or so on and so forth. But Men's soccer, a lot to look forward to. Again, my prediction for men's soccer for next year, Tarji will probably be the starting goalkeeper.
I think that's
at least early on in the season, while the rest of the team gets some looks.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. He currently leads the team in saves. That's the entire team, including the senior Chase Bolton. He leads this team with 5 saves and in save percentage, currently saving 5.56 for the season. So he's been doing really good out there.
Yeah, not too bad numbers by Targia. Look for him to make some more impact on this team as the season progresses. Again, last year they went into the Peach Belt tournament. They snuck in there. Sadly, got bounced out early, but they could make it back again. I think they have a team that can really make it back, and this time actually go a little deeper. Will they win it? I don't know. There's a lot of good teams here in the Southeast, but you never know. You really never know. Moving on along to a team that's always a contender, that's not volleyball, the golf team. They've switched up their schedule, and they're going to they've started at the Griffin Invitational, but that's not the real story. The real story is they are the number 13 team in the nation, according to a national ranking, and a couple of potential All-Americans this year, Johnson Holiday and Axel Ostenson.
Yeah, the golf team, as you mentioned, is always a contender, and being ranked nationally number 13 is pretty impressive. You got to think, it's you look at it at the top 25 system, so 13 doesn't look that impressive, but then you have to think about just how many schools there are in this country that are involved in those rankings. 13 is pretty darn good.
But, you see, I know going off track a little bit, going to Division I college football, you have your top 25 and say, oh, they're number 25 in the nation. Yeah, but look at all the schools that play the sports in golf. Look at all the teams that play in the sport, and you're number 13 out of hundreds of schools. That's a pretty good ranking. And also, you have to take into account that this Pacer team, they're playing in the best region for golf. National champions are coming out of this region like it's going out of style.
Absolutely.
5 or 6 national champions in recent years. And also, another thing, this Pacer team plays against Division I opponents on a routine basis. It's not like they're playing their fellow D2 schools, which are probably pretty talented as well, but when you're a D2 school competing against a D1 school and giving them a run for their money, last year they almost won a tournament against a bunch of D1 schools. They had a bad last day, and that really came back to bite them, but they were right there, about ready to steal away a victory from teams like Carolina, Augusta, who's also D1. Speaking of national championships, they've won a couple in golf as well. So, they're playing elite schools. They're playing elite players, and they're really sticking it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And another player that you can look at as having the potential to be an All-American, August Lindvall. He's coming off a surgery this season, so he's looking to have a big bounce-back year after having that surgery last year.
Yeah, surgeries, they're always problematic because you can have a player go into the surgery playing one way, playing great, All-American style, and then they come out and then they just are missing a step, or they can't really pick it up. And then you have some guys who come out of the surgery and play even better.
Yeah.
And let's hope for USC Aiken's sake that he's going to be the latter of all that.
Yeah, but even if Johnson Holiday, Axel Ostenson, or August Lindvall aren't playing to the level they're normally at, they have a young lineup. They have a lot of talent in that lineup. Guys like Dan Sheehan. These guys have the chance to really, really make an impact on this school. And being 13th nationally ranked, that can be a big confidence boost for this team, and it can really set things up for them going forward in the national title picture.
Yeah, and last year they were contenders last year for the national championship. This year they'll probably be contenders again. I'd like to see them go all the way, but it's going to be tough. Again, they're playing in the best region for golf. They play on some of the best courses themselves, but they're going to have to contend with the really tough competition. But again, having the young freshmen coming in, and they're really going to probably break into their own, especially playing amongst these seasoned veterans that have played at a high level for the last 4 years. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned, they did play in that Griffin Invitational. They took 7th overall, which, 7th overall it's pretty okay. It's not that bad, especially for a tournament of that size. So it should be an interesting season going forward, and we'll see how things go for the golf team.
Yeah, weather permitting as well.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
As we said, still in hurricane season, although nothing Nothing is tracked to hit us just yet, but that could always change.
Yeah, you never know with storms like those.
You can't really play golf in a hurricane. It's not a good idea.
Ball takes a little bit of a weird curve now.
Just a little bit of a curve. Maybe instead of going into the sand trap, it kind of goes into the rough or something.
Yeah, you can't really predict it.
Yeah, it's just But anyway, that's golf for you. Again, golf looking good. They're defending Peach Belt Conference champions. So probably could do it again if they really put their mind to it. Wouldn't be surprised if they did. Wouldn't be surprised if they take the region and maybe even the nation.
Yeah, and there's definitely the potential for that kind of impact with this team, and it'll be really interesting to see them going forward.
So after golf, we move on to events because with sports you want to have some fun, and some of the upcoming events is Pacer Madness. That's going to be happening next month in October. And that should be fun. I know the Pacer Fanatics and all those groups, they come out and they really support USC Aiken Athletics. A lot of prizes that come on out. They have raffles for some neat electronics. I know they gave away at a soccer game not too long ago. They gave away a little what was it? A stereo set type thing, like a small portable stereo.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not up to date with all that kind of stuff.
Goodness.
I have my smartphone and a tablet. That's all I really need.
Yeah, Marcus, he doesn't really understand a lot of what the kids are doing these days.
The crazy kids. I'm out of college. I'm out of touch. After being out of college for 2 years, you're out of touch with everything. But yep, Pacer Madness will be next month in October, and fall practice is starting up for sports, including tennis. Of course, baseball and softball will be joining in with that mix. Baseball always fielding that good team. Softball should be pretty good too.
Yeah, they're looking to have a big year this season. They've got some new faces on the team, looking to get everybody prepped and ready for when the season starts in the spring.
Yeah, and look to the veteran leadership to really try to groom these players to become really good. Like players like Brielle Jungblood, who's always seems to be on top of her game for softball. Really fast player as well. Probably one of the fastest people at USC Aiken.
Yeah, she finished the season really strong last year and should be looking to carry that kind of success over into this season as well.
Yeah, she's got a chance. Sydney Kate Murphy the same. Leah Bogosian will obviously be a factor for softball. And that about does it for them. I mean, look at baseball again. Some new coaching moving in there for baseball. We lost some big seniors last year. Joey Benitez and Zach Moon, Mitchell Price. They moved on, but we've retained guys like Jose Bonilla. He's always a factor. And Brian Pereira. I mean, he really lit things up at the end of the year last year, and despite being moved from first base where he's been absolutely stellar, he's been a good catcher too. So we'll look to them to keep the Pacers in the hunt for the region. As for the Peach Belt Conference, well, they got a lot of competition as well, same as golf. It's a good region for baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it'll be an interesting season for all of our spring sports this year. And also, you got basketball, both women's and men's, coming up soon in the winter as well. It's an exciting time to be a Pacer Athletics fan.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of Pacer Athletics, make sure you stay up to date on all the Pacer Athletics by joining our pages on social media, Pacer Athletics or pacersports.com.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we're also on Facebook, all those at Pacer Athletics. And as you mentioned, we also have pacersports.com where you get sports stories, this podcast, and a lot of other excellent, useful information on your Pacer Athletics, both current and previous.
Yep, YouTube channel as well to watch previous games or upcoming games. We always stream the games live there. We even put this podcast on YouTube. And last but not least, can't forget about Snapchat. Always bringing up the Snaps game.
Oh yeah, the Snapchat is amazing. I love the Snapchat, and I can promise you that when I am manning the Snapchat, which I usually do during basketball season, it is can't miss content.
Yeah, okay, I'll let you have that one. But in the meantime, I'm Marcus Johnson. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Pacer Nation. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Jordan Phillips will be with us. I will be with us. Maybe we'll even be able to get another athlete on board for an interview, depending on how you liked Rebecca Martinez, who I will say did a fantastic job today.
She did awesome.
Yeah, but that will do it. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Thank you, and have a good one.